The bass face master. If you judged bass playing purely by facial expressions, this bassist would be performing the most technically demanding music ever written. His eyes are shut tight, his eyebrows are fighting each other, and his jaw is clenched like he's trying to solve advanced mathematics with pure emotion. Meanwhile, the bass line consists of 4 beautifully placed root notes that even beginners could learn before lunch. It's completely ridiculous, but somehow also completely genuine. Bassists often become deeply connected to feel rather than speed, so even the simplest groove can demand total concentration. That's why the famous bass face has practically become part of musician culture. Some players can't help it, others lean into it because they know their bandmates will never let them forget it. Either way, if facial expressions added extra frequencies, this guy would need his own subwoofer. The bass player by accident. Ask him how he became the bassist and the story usually starts with, well, somebody had to do it. Maybe the band needed one, maybe nobody else volunteered, or maybe he simply lost an argument during the first rehearsal. Whatever the reason, he ended up holding down the low end while everyone else carried on as planned. During songs that need a solid groove, he'll occasionally sneak in unnecessary fills and extra notes, as though he's still trying to remind everyone he has a few tricks up his sleeve. Ironically, he's usually a very capable bassist. He just hasn't completely accepted that the band needed someone to hold everything together, not another solo. Even Paul McCartney originally played guitar before switching to bass after Stuart Sutcliffe left the Beatles in 1961, proving that some of the greatest bass careers begin with an unexpected opportunity. The Ghost. Every band seems to have one bassist who could probably walk through the crowd after the show without being recognized. While everyone else is soaking up applause, he's already unplugging his cable and picking up his gig bag before the drummer has stood up. On stage, he barely moves, rarely smiles, and somehow always ends up standing in the one corner the lighting engineer forgot existed. Yet remove him for a single rehearsal and the entire band suddenly sounds different. The groove feels less connected, the harmony loses some of its weight, and the songs suddenly feel a little emptier. That's because great bass playing is often more about being felt than noticed. Motown legend James Jamerson built countless hit records from exactly that role. Millions knew the songs, but few knew the man behind the bass. The Ghost may never steal the spotlight, but he'll often be the reason the entire band sounds its best. The Slap Bass Evangelist. For most bass players, slap is simply another technique to learn. For this guy, it became an entire personality. Give him a quiet jazz tune, a heartfelt ballad, or even Happy Birthday, and somehow his thumb is already warming up. He genuinely believes every song can be improved with one perfectly timed pop and a little extra funk. To be fair, slap bass has an incredible history. Larry Graham is widely credited with pioneering the technique during the mid-1960s before bringing it to a global audience with Sly and the Family Stone. The problem isn't the technique, it's that this bassist never received the memo that not every song wants it. Somewhere in the audience, there's always one person nodding in approval, while everyone else quietly wonders why the wedding entrance suddenly sounds like a Marcus Miller masterclass. The pick guy. The pick guy has probably answered that same question more times than he'd like to admit. Walk into a jam session holding a pick, and there's a good chance someone will ask, with a smile that's only half joking, "So, when are you switching back to guitar?" He's heard every argument and couldn't care less. He knows a pick delivers a sharper attack that works brilliantly in rock, punk, funk, and metal, and plenty of legendary bassists have proved it. Paul McCartney recorded many Beatles classics with a pick. Chris Squire built one of progressive rock's most recognizable bass tones the same way. Bobby Vega turned pick playing into an art form, combining incredible groove, speed, and precision without sacrificing feel. The pick guy isn't trying to win the debate anymore, he simply enjoys watching people argue over that tiny piece of plastic that costs less than a cup of coffee, while he quietly gets on with the gig. The metronome. Live music has a funny way of exposing the weakest link in a band. A singer misses an entrance, a guitarist steps on the wrong pedal, or somebody completely forgets where the chorus begins. Through all of it, one person refuses to panic. The metronome stays locked to the drummer with almost machine-like precision, playing the same bass line with the same timing night after night. Ask him to improvise and you'll probably hear exactly what he played yesterday, only with slightly more confidence. It may not even earn the loudest applause, but this kind of consistency is priceless. Bass sits between rhythm and harmony, so when it remains steady, everyone else has something solid to recover around. He's less like the star of the performance and more like the guardrails on a mountain road. Nobody talks about them until they're suddenly missing. The minimalist. This one believes the best bass line is often the simplest one, while other players are squeezing in fills, slides, and flashy runs between every chord. He's perfectly happy planting himself on the root note and letting the rest of the band do the talking. Give him a chord chart and he'll build the entire song around its foundation without feeling the slightest urge to show off. It sounds almost too simple until you notice how stable everything feels around him. The bass isn't always there to impress listeners. It's there to tell the rest of the band exactly where home is. Legendary session bassist Donald "Duck" Dunn built a career on serving the song before serving himself, proving that great taste often beats great speed. Ask him to add more notes and he'll probably ask the more important question: why? Sometimes the hardest thing a musician can play is restraint. The bass collector. You can usually spot this bassist before he even opens his case. Ask how many basses he owns, and instead of giving you a number, he'll ask, are we counting the ones in storage? Owning one instrument has never been enough. There's the vintage one, the backup for the backup, and the bass he bought because the finish looked slightly different under natural light. Ask why he needs 8 basses for a weekend pub gig, and he'll happily give you a 15-minute explanation that somehow ends with him needing a 9th. The truth is, he genuinely loves every instrument he owns. Collecting basses has become part of the hobby itself. The best part? He owns 30 basses, but most weekends only 4 or 5 of them ever leave the house. The other 25 are still waiting for their moment, which, according to him, is definitely coming. The I need the low B guy. At some point, this bassist upgraded from 4 strings to 5, and he's been defending that decision ever since. Before anyone even asks, he'll explain why the extra low B string completely changed his musical life. He'll mention heavier riffs, greater range, and more flexibility across the neck, all of which are perfectly valid reasons. Then the gig starts and somehow he spends the next 45 minutes barely touching that 5th string. Extended range basses became increasingly popular from the 1980s onward, especially in gospel, metal, and modern worship music, where deeper notes opened new possibilities. None of that matters to this guy though. For him, the low B isn't just another string, it's peace of mind. Whether he uses it or not is almost beside the point. Knowing it's there is what really matters. The secret weapon singer. The audience spends the first few songs assuming the bassist is simply holding down the low end. Then the chorus arrives, he leans toward the microphone, and suddenly the entire band sounds richer than anyone expected. While one hand keeps the groove steady, he's effortlessly singing harmonies that glue the vocals together. It's one of those moments that makes people look around as if another musician has quietly joined the stage. Some of the greatest bands have relied on bassists who could sing just as confidently as they played, with Paul McCartney standing as one of the finest examples. Balancing harmony and rhythm at the same time, it isn't nearly as easy as it looks. The secret weapon singer makes it appear effortless, and somewhere beside him, the lead vocalist is silently hoping nobody notices how much harder the choruses become without him. The groove thief. Watch this bassist for long enough and you'll notice he's barely looking at anyone except the drummer. They exchange the occasional nod, catch each other's tiny timing changes, and somehow make every groove feel effortless. Bass and drums form what's known as the rhythm section, and when those two are completely locked in, the rest of the band gets to build on an incredibly solid foundation. That's exactly what the groove thief understands. He isn't trying to steal the spotlight, but before long, the audience is tapping their feet because of the pocket he and the drummer have created together. The guitarist might be playing the flashiest solo of the night, yet somehow the groove is what people remember on the drive home. It's a quiet reminder that great music isn't only about what you hear, but what you instinctively feel. The Gear Philosopher. Bring up bass strings around this guy and you've accidentally scheduled a free seminar. Before you know it, you're getting a masterclass on flat wounds versus round wounds, passive versus active pickups, tube amplifiers versus solid state, and why changing one tiny piece of gear somehow transformed his entire sound. Nobody in the band planned on learning any of this, yet somehow everyone ends up listening because sooner or later he'll say something genuinely useful, while the rest of the group is still searching for a screwdriver before sound check. He's already fixing a loose jack, replacing a cable, and diagnosing the guitarist's pedalboard problem. His obsession with gear might seem excessive until something breaks 5 minutes before the show. Suddenly, the longest conversations in rehearsal become the most valuable one. The accidental band leader. Nobody plans on becoming the responsible one. It usually happens little by little. One rehearsal becomes 10. Messages start getting ignored. Gigs need booking. And before long, he's the one making sure everyone actually turns up on time. He's writing the set lists, confirming venues, reminding people to learn the new songs, and somehow keeping 5 different schedules from falling apart. If you ask him, he'll still insist he's just the bassist. But everyone else knows better. Behind almost every reliable local band is someone quietly handling the responsibilities nobody else wants. It isn't always the singer or guitarist. Quite often it's the person standing at the back of the stage, making sure everything works before a single note is even played. Leadership doesn't always come with a title. Sometimes it comes with a gig bag and a calendar. The ex-drummer. You can usually tell when a bassist started out as a drummer. Instead of chasing flashy melodies, he's listening for the kick drum and figuring out how to make the groove even tighter. Long before he picked up a bass, he was sitting behind a drum kit, and that experience still shapes every line he plays. That's one reason former drummers often make surprisingly natural bass players. The bass occupies a unique space between rhythm and harmony, allowing them to keep thinking like a drummer while adding musical depth at the same time. Ask him or her to play something more melodic, and he or she will probably make a groove even harder instead. They didn't really stop being a drummer, they just traded 2 sticks for 4 strings, and the drummer couldn't be happier about it. The one you don't appreciate until they're gone. Funny enough, this is probably the best bassist in the band. Not because they are the fastest or the flashiest, but because they never give anyone a reason to worry. They show up early, they know every song, play exactly what the music needs, and quietly packs up when the night's over. Week after week, that consistency becomes so normal that everyone starts taking it for granted. Then one day they can't make the gig. A substitute steps in and something immediately feels different. The notes might all be correct, but the band doesn't sound quite like itself anymore. The groove feels unsettled, the transitions aren't as smooth, and everyone suddenly realizes just how much they depended on them. It's a lesson countless bands have learned the hard way. The players who make the biggest difference aren't always the ones who make the most noise. The virtuoso. Every bass community seems to have one player who makes the impossible look routine. While most people are still warming up with a major scale, this bassist is already flying across the fretboard with blazing runs, impossible stretches, harmonics, tapping, and enough technique to make everyone else quietly put their bass back in the case. Players like Mohini Day have shown just how far modern bass playing can go. Her speed, accuracy, and effortless command of the instrument have inspired a new generation of bassists to push their technique far beyond simply holding down the groove. The same can be said for masters like Victor Wooten and Matthew Ramsey, whose playing often looks almost effortless. Even while they're performing lines most bassists would spend years trying to master. Just don't ask these players to keep it simple. Their idea of simple bass line might sound like the most advanced thing you've ever heard.